How's it going, guys? We're excited to bring you another one. Today's a fun one. It's we're going to be talking about carving out time for productivity. I think there's so many times in our lives that we have a feeling that we don't have enough time. Everybody likes to use this term, right, Ruben? I don't have enough time for this. I don't have enough time for that. A lot of people like to use the term, I don't have enough money either, which that'll be another topic. And I think, I just had this experience this week. So, I have a lot of things going on, pretty busy, and I had something that was 3 hours long that I needed to get through. And it was two people talking in presentation. I had to get a bunch of material out of it, information out of it. And it was 3 hours, and I was trying to think, okay, I got to get through this in the next couple of days. How am I going to do this? And so I started thinking through my schedule and saying, where can I fit in a little bit of time here and a little bit of time there? And with a little bit of planning, it didn't take very much, I was able to get that 3 hours of talking basically gone through and digested in about 2 days, all right? I fit it into my gym time, so while I was on my bike, I just set my phone there. I was watching it and listening to it while I was driving back and forth to work. It wasn't hard at all. A few times here and there, and I was able to do that. But if I just looked at it and said, "Oh man, 3 hours! I don't have time for that," I wouldn't have been able to go through that material, and I would have lost that opportunity to have that knowledge and that information, right?
Yeah.
So why don't you talk a little bit about your thoughts on this? I think a lot of people can see the value in it of carving out time in their schedules for certain things, whether it's a new startup, a side hustle that they have going on, whether it's learning a new skill like an instrument or something like that. So what are some thoughts that you have on how people can carve out extra time?
Everybody says that time is scarce, and we know that we only have 24 hours.
Yeah.
And you touch a couple of really important aspects of making time work for us.
Right.
But the truth is that everybody has the same time.
Yeah.
So
it's
what?
One thing that's
people have different
same
money.
Currency.
People have different social background. People have different education. But time, always the same thing.
Yeah.
And you go back to the root of the whole thing is really the priorities. Is it really important for you?
Right.
And the example you used is that you knew there's certain things that you are motivated to do because you have natural drive, something that you have passion for. Another thing is like a homework type of thing. You know what you have to do it, right?
Yeah.
And these are the ones that we tend to procrastinate.
Yeah, procrastinate,
right?
yeah.
And we tend to, I'll do it later, right?
Yeah.
And push it.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons that we always use in our minds is that I really don't have time for this, right?
Yeah.
So the ultimate goal is, even if it's something that you not be really motivated, you always have some motivation at the end. Okay.
Yes.
Motivation might be even getting rid of a penalty, right?
Yeah.
That's, I have to do a certain task, or I have to go certain place. Like right now, I'm in a remote location, and as you know, and the taxes are due for the property taxes. I have to go there. So if I don't go there, right? The motivation is I don't want to get penalized, right?
Exactly.
And you have the penalty on it. So you might not have a direct motivation, but you have an indirect motivation.
Yeah.
So the best thing is before the second step, I believe, is to identify the motivation. Is this really important or not?
Yeah.
In your case, you have to go through that material.
Yeah.
And then when you define that's really important, it might not be self-evident, but there is a motivation behind it.
Yeah.
And if you have that motivation identified, you have to go through planning. And you had also an experience that you were doing things simultaneously.
Yes.
But there's some things you can't do.
Exactly.
Right?
This was something that I could do multitasking, but yeah, go ahead.
Multitasking.
Yep.
And when I was younger, I believed I could multitask a lot.
Yeah.
Seriously, I thought
there's a lot of studies on multitasking. It's not very good.
It's not very good.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really, really possible to be permanently multitasking. But we know that the brains work in a serial mode.
Yep.
But there is, I don't know if you read this book about is it the mode 1 and mode 2 of the brain? I can't remember the name of the book.
No.
It's really interesting.
No.
Really thoughtful and deep book.
Yep.
But it explains how the brain works. There's certain tasks that we do it automatically. We don't even think we're doing those, right?
Yeah.
You might be eating, and you might be hearing music, right?
Yep.
Or eating, hearing an audiobook. And you were going around places and doing the other tasks that you had to fit in parallel. Exactly. It wasn't really parallel. It was your brain going back and forth, but the mode, I think it's the mode
your
2.
Unconscious mode
was taking care of that task.
Yeah.
So the planning, that's a great example, because you were looking at things that, can I put that parallel task into something that I'm going to be in auto mode.
Exactly.
But the focus was really on the content that you're hearing because you had to learn and then apply it later, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
But then there's things that you can't do that way. You have to be fully dedicated because there's no subconscious going on.
Exactly.
All the conscious and subconscious has to be dedicated to that.
And sometimes you're physically involved with it. You have to be,
Right.
typing or writing or whatever it is. Yeah.
I remember when I was flying in the beginning, and then I asked Misha, can I put some music? Because the headset said the music. I said, better not. Focus on flying, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Because
when that becomes unconscious, you can put a little music.
When we're unconscious, not, right? But in the beginning, because you need that, you're not in auto mode yet.
Mm-hmm.
So this auto mode and non-auto mode is a really good thing to identify what tasks I can put in parallel.
Yeah.
The experience that I have is that the tasks that I usually plan for in a better way, so I have more of a outlook. Like for example, I like to look at my calendar on the previous day. Do you do that?
Mm-hmm.
You do that,
Yeah.
right? And I go through every single thing that I'm going to do the next day, right?
Yeah.
And then I find I'm more confident the next day because I can identify, I need to take care of this, and that. And a day that is quite complex, it turns out to be that you actually have time for those tasks, right? And it has to do with the planning, the prior planning you do. I'm not great at planning.
Yeah.
I think I have to improve a lot in planning.
Yeah.
But I do see a lot of value. I'm getting better into it because I'm putting more attention into it.
Mm-hmm. Now, a question for you. At different points of your life, you've been more busy than others, and you go through different waves. So sometimes you're not as busy as you are in others. But when you're in your heightened, really busy times, you just went through one a few weeks ago where you just had a lot of projects on the go. When you look at your schedule, how do you divide up your time? Do you divide it up in hour segments, half-hour segments, or minute segments?
I divide it by task and evaluating how long the task will take.
Right.
And you get better if you do it repeatedly, not necessarily with time, but with attention. What I mean by that is if you put really attention and measure, it's all about determining that I need, for example, 2 hours, like that specific example again, 3 hours.
Yep.
That's very easy because that's tangible.
Yeah.
But certain things are not tangible.
Yep.
So you gotta get the beauty of guesswork is that more you guess, your brain gets better and better on it. So if you do a guessing of you do permanent guessing for every single task.
Yeah.
That's why when I started one of my first companies, I remember that everybody who worked with me, they knew that Ruben is all about like when, how, and how much.
Right.
I wanted to identify those three things.
Yeah.
So how much is going to cost me in terms of time, or money, or resources, anything? How many screws, right? How much? Right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then how many people are going to get involved, and how many hours I'm going to get into this, and how I'm going to do it. So what's the plan to put everything together to come with the ultimate result of the achievement I want to get to. So that blend of the things and how I'm going to plan the next day, I always think about how much, when I'm going to do it, and how I'm going to do it.
Because, I mean, the reason I'm asking, it's easy to forget about minutes. It's like we talked about in a different one, the difference between having a $20 bill or, $20 in a bunch of change, loose change, right? And it's easy to get lost with the change. So you got a dime here and a nickel there and whatever.
Right.
And the same thing goes with time. We're in the era of Zoom calls right now, right? With everything that's going on, people are just Zoom calls. And what I find is interesting is when you know that you have something coming up. I have a Zoom call at 10:30 today, for example, right? And so I say, okay, I have to do this, this, and this before that call. And it's very possible or very easy to say, okay, well, I have to make sure I'm done everything by 10 o'clock or 10:15 or something, so that I'm ready for that next Zoom call. And you forget about, hey, you know what, there's maybe 15 minutes or 12 minutes or something, right?
That's it.
And something that's actually I found interesting because I haven't done a lot of like conference calling and stuff before this whole thing started. And what I've noticed is when my reminder on my computer says I have 12 minutes left until my Zoom call or something, right? It's actually incredible how much stuff you can fit in those 12 minutes.
Yes.
And even 3 minutes. Like, usually you look at your watch, okay, 3 minutes, I got to jump onto this or whatever, right? And it's amazing. Your computer will sit there and remind you, say, 3 minutes, you got this call. Man, you can go get this done, this done, this done. And things that, they don't take very long, but you might have left them for another time and then forgotten about them and not gotten them done. And so a lot of the times I think we can fit little tasks into those little crevices to make more use of a block of time, right?
You're right. I'm thinking that's you mentioned this example of how much is it cramming in? Cram in, right?
Cram in, yeah.
A prior an important task.
Yep.
And I'm all about that. Nancy, my wife, is not about that. You know, she criticizes me a lot.
Yeah.
You say, no, she cannot understand how come I have something at, let's say, 2:00, and 5 minutes before, I'm still doing things, and then she might ask me, you know, could we take a look at this, and that? And I say, no, those 5 minutes are taken care of. Right? I have plans for those 5 minutes. I know what I'm going to do in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Right?
Exactly.
And I think it has to do with the personality also.
Yeah.
But I recognize that this cramming in, the excessive cramming in, increases stress.
Yes, and I want to talk about that. I want to talk about that. So, because I've heard this kind of stuff before, and I've been on both sides of it, right? I've had times in life where I'm really busy, and then times where I'm not busy. And I think it's important for people to understand life is about balance, right? So we're talking about more extreme circumstances where you're trying to create out of the normal productivity, right? So you're busy, you run your life, everything that's going on, but you have this dream that you want to become an expert guitarist, right? And so you need to fit that time in. Unless you're going to quit something else in your life, you need to fit that time in. So now your life is going to become more busy for a certain amount of time until you have the enjoyment of saying, you know what, I'm going to, just for fun, I'm going to get rid of something else and I'm just going to play guitar because it's fun, right? And so I think it's kind of scheduling those busy times and remembering, because I don't want people to watch this and say, man, that's great for you guys. I'm glad you're busy all the time, and that's fine, and you're cramming every minute of your day, right? But that's not for me. That's not how you live life all the time, right? You have to have balance, right? You have to have these times where you get really busy and you're super productive, and that allows you to have more times where you can be less productive and enjoy life and the different things that you want to do in life, right?
I think we discussed this. Did I tell you that the reason I wanted to be entrepreneur from the beginning was because of time? Not really because of achieving anything monetarily. It was like the first thing was the time, and I still remember that I had this feeling that I could take time off, play hard and work hard, right? So work hard, and I did it. I didn't do it many times actually. I think that if I would go back, or I would look life differently. But there was a period of my life that I had this feeling I could do it anytime, and I didn't do it. And the times that I did it, it was amazing, because that full day, we talked about the water skiing, right? I did a couple of days water skiing. And then some years ago, I did a little golfing here and there. And just the feeling that everybody's working and I'm having fun on a weekday, it's special.
It is. That's kind of cool. Yeah.
If it's a weekend, it seems like, everybody's doing it, you can do it. But being unsynced with society, it looks like that time is more precious, because you're valuing that time for you and something that you're looking forward to. So the whole management of this time is very personal, and I always think about in time also that those short period of times that you say prior to a call, like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 3 minutes, and it's so paradox, because time is infinite, right? So inside a minute there's seconds, inside a second there's milliseconds, and inside milliseconds, minute. So it's very, time is so complex, because you can really fit in many things if you think that the task doesn't take more than 10 seconds or 10 minutes, right? Some tasks don't take more than X amount of time. What I don't like to do is to leave things unfinished. What gives me stress and finish. So again, it has to do with the personality, because you guys might be thinking, oh, you guys are just filling in this way. It gives more stress if I find something that I've done like 90%, 95%, and then there's a little thing that is missing. So I got to fill in that. It takes what it takes.
And I think that segues perfectly into mind share. You love to talk about the term mind share, and having your mind clear and ready for a specific task, right? If you have your mind divided between too many tasks, you don't have enough clear mind share for your wife or for your business or for this project or your kids or whatever it is, right? And going back to the beginning of what we were talking about, you were talking about homework or something possibly that's a less desirable task, right? And people, you were talking about procrastination. So getting back to that, I think people that procrastinate, if you guys are procrastinators, my wife always jokes with me, because I used to be a procrastinator and I'm very much less that now. But my wife is the opposite of that. Like, if there's something on her to-do list, it's going to be done today, like this minute, because she doesn't want to have to think about it, because she's all about mind share as well. She wants to have a clear mind to say, you know what, I don't have anything that has to get done because I've already done it, right? And so just using that concept and saying, what is the motivation? What's the reward for getting something done now versus later, right? And so freeing up that time, saying, okay, I'm going to create time in my schedule. I don't want to because this is a boring task. Let's say it's a necessity, it's a housekeeping task or whatever. But I'm going to create time right now. I'm going to get into it. I'm going to dive through, and then going back to what you just said a second ago, with not having a task uncompleted. So you finish that task, you get to the completion, you wipe it away from your mind. Now the mind share is gone from that task, and you can start focusing on something new. And the more present you are, and this is kind of what you were getting at earlier as well, with not multitasking too much, right? The more present you are with a specific task, the more the quicker you'll be able to do it, and the more higher the higher product you'll make out of it, right?
Better productivity.
Yes.
And the outcome and the ultimate product's will be a better quality.
Exactly. So I think that's really important. Just considering that mind share and then getting that reward, even though that task was boring, the completion of that task and getting it off of your list is actually a huge reward.
And about procrastination, right? There's this thing that there's the weight on your brain about something that you need to do, you need to do, but you're keeping on pushing it, right? And that's taking time from your brain.
It is,
because you think about that thing many times. See, and is it better that it's hard on you the next hour, or it's going to be better to be hard on you on 100 hours, 1,000 hours, right? Because it's going to be coming back many times. And that's the way I fight against it. And let's get rid of this. Because once you get rid of this, you kind of feel almost empty of a weight. And it's done, right? It's done. But if you keep on feeding it and say, I'll do it later, it keeps on coming back. And instead of an hour, it's going to be 100 hours in your brain, right? So it's about the mind share that time has effect on.
I think we're going to wrap it up with this, guys. This was, for me anyways, I love this conversation, super beneficial. And I think for you guys, if you can take a couple things out of it this week, is think about projects that you want to do, something that you want to accomplish, and then start carving out, look at your schedule, start carving out times in that schedule that you're going to be able to focus on that. If there's been things that have been nagging you that you need to get done, just get them done. Just find a time to make them happen. And that freedom that you're going to feel when that's done, I think is going to be really awesome as well. So let us know a little bit in the comments below what you guys thought of this concept in ways that you guys have found to become more productive as well. And maybe some hacks, some life hacks for finding more productivity through carving out time. What ways do you guys do in your lives to carve out more time so that you can be more productive? Until next time, guys, we're going to talk to you later. See ya.